So, if you're heading into divorce, the first thing you want to do is think about something basic like, do you want to stay in the house where you're at, or do you want to move on? If you want to stay in the home where you're at, it's beneficial to talk to a mortgage representative to see what you would need to qualify for a loan, how much money you might potentially be looking at having to pay your spouse, and work out a budget using those figures to see, can you afford to stay in the home? I always tell people it's not a good idea to be house poor. So if it's close, you might want to consider selling the home or being bought out of it. And if you're being bought out of it, then you want to look at what are the possible proceeds you're looking at. What is new replacement housing going to look like? What are the expected utility costs that go with that? And basically generally working on a budget based on whether you're planning on staying in the home or leaving the home. And that's a really good place to start because a lot of people don't give that thought until they're further along in the process. And then it makes it harder for them to come up with a resolution because there's too many question marks. So the best thing you want to do is try to find statements for the time frame you're looking at. If you were looking at filing for divorce in November, you try to look for statements for November of the year you're in to kind of capture what your estate is. So what are the balances of your bank accounts, your retirement accounts, any other cash assets you might have? What are your liabilities? What are your mortgage balances, your car loans, credit card liabilities, things like that. That gives you a good idea of what the marital estate looks like. And it's a great jumping off point for us to kind of start guiding you in which way you might need to go. When you're choosing a lawyer, you don't want to pick someone who's just selling themselves to you. Knowing the judge, knowing the other attorneys doesn't get the result you might be hoping for. It doesn't get it done. You want somebody who's going to be honest with you, sometimes brutally honest if that's what you need. You want someone who is creative, who can look at a variety of settlement positions to get your matter to the finish line. You want to look for someone who doesn't want to litigate your case just to earn money. I am never afraid to tell somebody that a position they're taking is one that's not going to be successful, one that's going to cost them more than they are trying to receive, and try to give that brutal honesty that you need. So when you get to the end of the case, you're not sitting there looking at what happened and, bemoaning how much money you've spent to get nothing at the end of the day. If you rush through it, you're working from a place of a lack of knowledge. So if you spend the time, especially if you are not the person in your family who pays the bills, who's aware of the finances, if you spend that time figuring out what it is exactly that you have, you're better able to assist your lawyer in figuring out what issues there are that have to be resolved. So sometimes you have no control over that. Sometimes somebody files and you're caught off guard, but you can still do that documentation gathering and try to figure out exactly what you have, what needs to be divided, what issues there might be. And that, again, helps your attorney guide your case. If you have any questions about preparing for divorce, give us a call at Smedley Law Group. We're happy to help.